Hello, good day to one and all. This is Dr. A. Krishna Sundar, Assistant Professor, Department of English, KAHM Unity Women's College, Mancheri. Today, we are going to discuss a short story titled as Half a Day, written by Naguib Mahfouz. So, before we get into the storyline, let's have a look at the biographical details of the author. So here is Naguib Mahfouz. He's an Egyptian writer and he was the first Arabic writer to win Nobel Prize for Literature. He was born in Cairo and this short story titled as Half a Day was published in the year 1989. It was initially published in the collection The False Dawn and it was written in Arabic language. Later, it was translated into English and under one English short story collection titled as The Time and the Place, it was published. So let's look at the story line here. What is the story about? So instead of going through the entire text, here is a summary of what happens within the story. The story begins with a child going to school for the very first time, and he's going with his father. On the way, he sees the street with gardens. He can also see crops, prickly pears, henna trees, date palms, etc. He goes to school in uniform along with his father. Now, since this is the very first day of school, the boy is not very happy. The boy here is the narrator himself. The little boy is not convinced about going to school. He thinks that he has done something wrong, and that is the reason why his father is sending him to school. Finally, he goes because of the advice given by the father. And more than that, the father promises him that he will wait at the gate at the time when the school bell rings in the evening. So finally, he goes and he becomes a part of the school. He travels through different stages: childhood, adolescent period, adulthood, middle age, old age, and it continues. Now, by the time the school bell rings, he comes out of the school gate not as the same child, but as an old man. Now, when he gets back to the normal crossroads, which he had been very familiar with, he is not able to recognize any of these places. He could see vehicles and sky touching buildings. He finds a totally changed world outside and is thoroughly disappointed and frustrated. So, with this frustration, the short story comes to an end. Now, the most important element that you can find here would be the change happening to the world. Because as a child, when he went to the school, he could see crops, henna trees, date palms, etc. But in the evening, when he comes back, he couldn't see any of these things. Instead, he finds vehicles, traffic. There is a siren given out by a fire engine, sky touching buildings, etc. So maybe this is because of the modern development, technological advancement, and moreover, the child who goes to the school comes out in the evening not as a child but as an old man. So this is the crux of the story. Now let's analyze what is this all about. Now the story is about the concept of time. It speaks about the reality how time flies. It also talks about human psychology. It also deals with the changing world. And changing world can include the socio-cultural changes, technological changes, and a lot of things happening around us. Moreover, the short story also takes into consideration the different stages of life, beginning with childhood, teenage days, adulthood, middle age, old age, and then the next part is definitely death. So, in short, this short story can be considered as an allegory. Now, what is an allegory? An allegory is a story or a work with a hidden meaning. Now, when you read the story, it looks like the child is going to the school and spending the rest of his lifetime in the school. But only in the last part, when we realize that the boy who went inside is coming out not as a boy but as an old man, we could realize that it was all about time, the entire cycle of human life. So, half a day, the title here is actually talking about the life cycle of a human being. How quickly time flies and how quickly a baby grows into old age. Now, this is how the short story ends. Extremely irritated, I wondered when I would be able to cross because he is standing in front of the school gate and he is not able to recognize the place. Everything has changed, and there is a heavy traffic block, and he is unable to cross the road. So it's with extreme irritation and disappointment that the short story ends. Now, moving into the question answers. Answer in a sentence or two. Question number one: why did the narrator wear new clothes? The narrator wore new clothes because he was going to school for the first time. He was wearing a green school uniform with black shoes and a red tarbouche, which is actually some kind of a hat. Question number two: explain how the child challenges the idea of schooling. The child challenges the idea of school by promising his father that he will not do anything to annoy him. The child believes that he is taken to school as a punishment. Question number three: I was not convinced. Explain the child's thoughts on schooling. The child never believed that the school can play a great role in molding him. He was really unhappy about tearing him away from his comfort zone, which was his home. Moving on, question number four: how did the father motivate the child when he hesitated to enter the class? The father asked the boy to be a man and convinced him that his life will truly begin today at school. He also promised that he would wait at the school gate in the evening. Question number five: why did the boy feel like a stranger in the school? Being the first day of his school, the boy did not know anyone there, and none of the school kids knew him as well. Therefore, he felt like a stranger who has lost his way. Question number six: what do you think about the teacher's attempt to console the children by calling school a new home? The teacher tried to console them by saying that this is their new home. She also added that everything in the school is enjoyable and that it will be beneficial to widen their knowledge about religion. Question number seven: the boy turned happy after he found the rich variety in school comment. The school became a place of happiness and contentment for the narrator. It was a mixture of friendship, love, play, and learning, and thus provided a rich variety. Question number 8: what realizations made the narrator say, we did not find it as totally sweet and unclouded as presumed? The narrator talks about his school days, which stands as a symbolic representation for the whole cycle of life. As the child approached the further stages of life, life gave more troubles and responsibilities. Question number 9: write a short note on the narrative technique used by the author. Half a day is an allegory, And therefore, the complete narrative involves characters and events that stand for an abstract idea. The story symbolizes the life cycle of a human being and the changes happening around us. Question number 10. Why did the boy resist his father's attempt to send him to school? What made him ask the question, why school? The boy felt his home as the most comfortable place with the presence of his mother. He could never imagine that there is a better place for him than his home. The comforts of a home is the best part a child would enjoy, and hence he felt schooling was unnecessary. Now, moving on to paragraph questions. Question number 1. Explain the use of home as a symbol in the story. So, first of all, you have to define what a symbol is. So, you will have to explain all these bullet points, which will give you enough material to make it into a paragraph answer. So, what exactly is a symbol? A symbol is something that stands for a bigger concept. So, here, home stands as a symbol. Home stands for a place of comfort, specifically for a child. And half a day is a story which is an allegory. So, home stands for comfort, and this stands to represent the childhood days. Now, childhood stage is the most memorable stage, it is the most enjoyable stage of life. So, home here stands as a symbol of comfort, thereby connecting it with childhood. Now, once the stage is over, you can never retrieve this stage. So, this is always considered as a comfort place because all of us would definitely yearn to go back to our childhood days. Now, question number 2. The title of the story carries two edges of life. Explain. So, as we had discussed, this is an allegory, so you have to explain what an allegory is. And the short story begins with the story of a child and ends with the story of the same child growing into an old man. So it speaks about these two stages of life: childhood, which is the initial stage, and old age, which is actually the penultimate stage, the stage before death. Now, school gate here stands as a symbol of transition, and maybe that is why the child who goes through the gate as a child comes back through the same gate as an old man. Moving on to the last question, question number 3. There was no question of ever returning to the paradise of home. Is it about the brevity of human life? Comment. Now, brevity means a short span. So you can start the answer by stating that this story is an allegory. You can explain what an allegory is, and the story talks about the different stages of life: childhood, adolescence, adulthood, middle age, old age, and finally death. Now, childhood never lasts forever. We all know that. And we fail to recognize its importance when we are a child. So life can go only forward and it can never come backwards. But this realization is always a late realization. And that is why the narrator says there was no question of ever returning to the paradise of home. Because by the time the narrator is a young man, he would have been tasked with the responsibilities of a family, marriage, children, etc. So, with this, we come to the end of this session. So thank you very much. Thank you for your patient listening. In case if there are any doubts or any questions or any kind of suggestions, please do not hesitate to connect with me in my email ID. So thank you very much. Thank you.